Whew. Hey guys, I finally lost them. I decided to check out that house down the street that's very obviously haunted and filled with demons and evil spirits along with deranged drug dealers that all had guns. I probably shouldn't have gone in there, but I did take something away from it. The residents of that house are pretty evil. Guess you could say it was Resident Evil. Yeah, no, just end the video now. That was really bad. Just kidding. Apologies for that. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, all my dear, wonderful viewers. Intel here. I'm quite excited. Why am I so excited, you may ask? Because pew pew, that's why. I get to shoot a gun at evil things and feel satisfied when I very rarely hit my target. I hit targets some of the time.
60% of the time, it works. Every time.
That doesn't make sense.
Moving on from my terrible aim, the Resident Evil series, or should I say, Resident Evil 2. I don't know, I feel like that's the best title screen. Resident Evil, or Biohazard in Japan, is everyone's favorite campy, sometimes goofy survival horror franchise created by Capcom that consists of fighting zombies, mutated monsters, and sometimes a handsome man wearing sunglasses that has an awesome voice.
7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
It's got a wide variety of gimmicks and gameplay styles to choose from, ranging from tank controls with fixed camera angles to over-the-shoulder action shooters to first-person traditional horror, which is what the newer games have focused on a lot more. There's also a lot of spin-off titles, including the Revelations games, arcade machines, handheld releases, and much more. There's also a handful of remakes of the classic games to play as well, along with full-fledged movies and TV shows, some good, some bad, and some very bad, and that kind of reflects the games. You sometimes get a Resident Evil 4, and then you get a Resident Evil 6 or a Resident Evil Outbreak. It's like Forrest Gump said. Resident Evil is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. The gaming world was first introduced to Resident Evil in March 1996 when Resident Evil released. Everyone got their first glimpse of classic characters like Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine, who would later become series veterans, along with Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield introduced in Resident Evil 2. Chris Redfield and Leon Kennedy are two of the most iconic, with Chris sticking around all the way through the most recent game, Resident Evil Village. The first Resident Evil was also the start of the tank controls era of Resident Evil, which lasted all the way through Resident Evil 2, 3, and Code Veronica. Then came the over-the-shoulder era, which started with Resident Evil 4, which is still considered to be one of the most beloved video games of all time. Resident Evil 5 came after that, which is basically Resi 4 again, but had less horror and was more action-focused. Then came Resident Evil 6, which is Resident Evil 6. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Capcom had a bit of a wake-up call with Resi 6 and realized people were not having it with the Michael Bay action shooter angle. Although Resi 5 sold incredibly well, mainly because it was the only Resident Evil game that featured co-op before 6, it was still way more action-focused, and it was the first Resident Evil game that started making people a little antsy that they were straying towards the Call of Duty shooter style and not the horror vibes of the original games. Capcom probably leaned so heavily into the action shooter mechanics in 6 because 5 sold so well. They didn't realize 5 sold well not because people liked the more action-focused gameplay, but that a lot of people bought it for the co-op, not for the Call of Duty elements. People loved these games for the campy horror the series had come to be known for. RE6 did not pull that off, and to be honest, it was an ironic blessing for the series, since the next game, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, brought the series back to its horror roots and pretty much saved the series. And that's what we're talking about today. I feel like starting off my Resident Evil journey on this channel with Resident Evil 7 is a good jumping off point because it's the first Resident Evil game I ever played. I knew nothing about these games up until 7 was announced and released, and it grabbed me because it looked like a more traditional horror experience. I've never really been into shooters for the most part, and the only one I've actually played extensively is Apex Legends, so when I saw 7 was being marketed as a classic first-person horror experience, I wanted in on that, especially after playing the kitchen demo that was released shortly before the game came out to tease what the game was going to be like. And after playing it for the first time, I really enjoyed myself, and I wanted to see the other games and what they offered. From there, I played the remake of Resident Evil 2 in 2019, followed by the Resident Evil 3 remake, OG Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5 with my friend Spencer, skipped Resident Evil 6 for obvious reasons, and then replayed 7 before Village came out. I also played the remake of the original a little bit and the recent remake of Resi 4 that came out in 2023. We also have confirmation that the 9th mainline game in the series, Resident Evil Requiem, is coming in February of next year. Neat! Although Resident Evil 7 is the 7th mainline game in the franchise, many fans consider it to be a soft reboot of the series, bringing things back to those classic horror roots and turning away from the Call of Duty action. It still has guns and shooting and lots of action, sure, but it's a much better blend of genres and gameplay than games like Resi 5 and 6. The structure of the game combines classic Resident Evil elements like shooting enemies, puzzle solving, and small claustrophobic rooms, hallways, and corridors with your traditional first-person horror gameplay seen in a lot of scary games like Outlast, Amnesia, and more. It's a brilliant combination, and it's a big reason why 7 is not only one of the best-selling games in the series, but it's also considered one of the best games in the series, up there with Resi 4. I'll delve into the story and major characters of 7 in a bit, but I want to talk about why this game works so well on a horror level. It's kept very simple. Sometimes simplicity works better than overbloating a game with a bunch of different elements, items, characters, and more. Resi 7 is very confined, straightforward, and simplistic. There's like a total of maybe 7 to 8 characters that are featured prominently in this game, with several of them either not appearing for most of the game or dying near the start or throughout the story. Your item arsenal is also fairly small compared to other games, with only a few different gun types, a couple of healing item types, and a small crafting system to make things like ammo and additional first aid supplies. Keeping things simple like this makes the game way closer to that classic survival horror experience Resident Evil is known for. When I tell you that this game leans way more into survival horror, I mean it. It does not pamper you with a bunch of items and ammo in the way games like Resi 4 and Village do. Things are scarce around the Baker estate, and you have to be pretty conservative with your resources on top of managing your inventory, which is pretty small, all things considered. You've only got room for a few guns along with healing items and other tools. It's something I like a lot and appreciate since it's a more tense experience. You always have to make a decision every time you encounter a monster. Do you use a lot of ammo trying to take it down, or do you find a way around it so you can save ammo for later encounters like boss fights? This playstyle is especially relevant in Madhouse mode, where you can get basically soft-locked in certain parts if you use all your items too quick or save in the wrong areas. What the No! Bro, just Sonic ran! Stop! Really? Ghostly said in the chat earlier that I soft-locked myself? I guess I kinda did. The scares are also pretty effective, especially on a first playthrough. The whole situation is very mysterious, and the player will rightfully be very confused about what's going on, and it isn't until much later in the story that things start to make sense. What is it with these weird mold monsters walking around? Why are the people living at this estate so evil and want to kill me so bad? What is happening?
I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what is. What the f is going on?
We've also got to talk about the setting of the game too. It's a very nice change of pace from previous titles. In past games, we've explored a mansion, entire cities, a village that seems to be stuck in the late 1800s, and even Africa. Resident Evil 7, however, embraces an environment that absolutely works flawlessly with horror: the rural South. It's stated right at the beginning of the game that the main events are about to take place in Dulvey, Louisiana, a super rural and swampy part of Louisiana at that. I'm gonna be real. I'm a Southerner. I grew up in and still live in the South, and can confirm that there are parts of the southern United States that are very creepy and downright dangerous rural areas, and these settings are perfect for horror. There's a reason why the Blair Witch Project is such a phenomenal horror film, and this game actually takes some inspiration from that movie, from certain cutscenes to the cult-like imagery found in specific areas. It's a great homage. I've been talking this long already, and I still haven't even mentioned the actual gameplay and how it feels, how it looks, how it sounds. Everything that went into this game, from the visuals, sound design, and attention to detail, is fantastic. The guns feel incredibly satisfying to fire. There's constantly little noises here and there, like cracks and bumps, to keep you on edge, because you never know if that sound you heard was just the old house settling, or if it's an enemy that's on its way to attack you. It really keeps you on your toes at all times, and I really like that. As soon as you let your guard down and convince yourself that crack was nothing, a molded monster will come around the corner and bite your head off. Stay attentive. Now that I've established the game, where it takes place, and how it succeeds as a fantastic blend of classic Resident Evil survival horror and traditional first-person horror, let's go over the story and what it offers to the player. Also, spoilers for an 8-year-old game. If you guys haven't played this game, yeah, spoilers, I guess. Here we go. As I said earlier, Resi 7 serves as a soft reboot for the series, but it doesn't remove itself from the Resident Evil lore. The other games still happened, that's confirmed and obvious, but this game is a great standalone story that adds layers to the established lore. That's another reason why this game is so approachable. You don't have to do any homework to enjoy this game, and you don't have to go and play all the other Resident Evil games to get a full experience. Resi 7 is its own beast, and it's just a bonus if you play the other games, since there are Easter eggs you can find that reference previous titles. This game follows Ethan Winters, your standard run-of-the-mill guy who ends up trapped in a nightmarish situation that he has no understanding of, simply because he's trying to find his missing wife, Mia, who's been gone for 3 long years. Fun fact, my buddy Spencer told me that the devs named her Mia after the phrase missing in action. MIA. Ha, ha, ha. I see what they did there. Very clever. Anyway, I don't blame Ethan for being lonely. I'd be a little antsy too if my wife was gone for that long, to the point where I thought she was dead, only to get a message from her saying to come get her, confirming she is still among the living. You find out later that she was working with the Connections, who were transferring a dangerous fungal bioweapon called Evelyn, which led to the Bakers being infected, but we'll get to that later. Ethan in this game is a great and fitting protagonist because he functions as a blank slate for the player. He has no connection to the Resident Evil universe, at least at this point in time. The player doesn't know what the hell is going on, and neither does Ethan. It's a great element that adds to the WTF nature of this game, because nothing going on can be rationally explained, at least not at first, and that's what makes it terrifying. But he's also very bland, and we'll get to that later. Trust me, he gives Henry from Bendy and the Ink Machine a run for his money. The game opens with a happy, innocent message from Mia to Ethan telling him how much she misses him and can't wait to get home from her babysitting job. You already know as soon as she gets home, Ethan's about to continue that Winter's bloodline. You know what I'm saying?
Weird. Buddy, you're weird!
Ethan is talking to who I assume is a close friend as he's driving to Louisiana to pick up his long-lost wife. When he arrives, he finds that things look a little off. This is the first time you spot Jack as well, who's just casually going for a stroll through the woods. I'll admit, this part is very creepy. The way he just slowly walks out of the trees and away from you without looking at you or saying anything is incredibly unsettling. So unsettling that Ethan is completely mute. Get used to this. He's got a personality that, like I said earlier, is almost on par with Henry from Bendy and the Ink Machine. Although I think him not being super charismatic in this game is a better alternative to Village because he gets into cringe territory with some of his line deliveries in that game.
Why is everyone dying on me?
Ethan makes his way into what turns out to be the Baker's guest house. There's an optional tape you can watch that shows a group of paranormal investigators sneaking into the Baker estate and promptly getting their ghost hunting behinds whooped by the J-Man. After traversing a dirty kitchen and a nasty flooded basement, Ethan actually finds Mia. She's confused, however, and insists that she didn't contact Ethan while telling her to come pick her up. Then she asks if he saw Ethan. Who?
We're gonna be a family. Now that you're here.
Ho, brother, ho, whoa, 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 now.
Nah. No. That's not gonna fly. Ethan, why are you allowing this? If my wife, after missing for a few years, is calling anyone other than me daddy, we're gonna have a serious problem. File the divorce papers. Now. They don't make it far before Mia is seemingly captured and dragged to who knows where, and before we know it, she's attacking Ethan now, clearly possessed by something. We also get a pretty good jump scare here. Followed by more fighting and a Mia death fake out, which Ethan, he does and says nothing. My dude. Maybe you are okay with her calling other guys daddy if that's your reaction to what appears to be murdering your own wife. Lord, have some emotion, man. To no one's shock, Mia actually isn't dead, and she cuts off Ethan's hand with a chainsaw. Ugh. While this is brutal, it's also kind of stupid. Ethan straight up tried to block a chainsaw with his bare hands. Come on, man. If you're gonna be Leon in the Resi 4 remake, at least do it with a knife, not your bare skin. You're not the Terminator. Also, Ethan barely screams in pain when this happens. Bro is so emotionally inept that he sometimes forgets to feel pain. Thanks to some magical first aid goop juice, as Markiplier calls it.
Oh, yeah, that'll fix it up. Yeah, let me get some goop juice on that. All better. Oh, my hand feels great. What about my shoulder? Yep, 100% back to normal. Thanks, Mia. I don't even have a grudge.
We're able to stifle the wound, but now we have unfinished business to take care of with Wifey. with one hand.
Oh, ho, brother, ho, whoa, 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 now.
Wait, that sounded wrong. You know what I meant. After taking down Mia, who is still wielding the chainsaw, with our newly acquired handgun, we get grabbed by Jack, who we soon find out is this game's main antagonist. He is a brilliant villain and scary as all get out. You do not want to mess around with this guy. And when he grabs us, he utters the iconic line.
Welcome to the family, son.
Oh! Ow. Yep, we get knocked out and curb stomped. What a way to start the game. We wake up and find that our hand has been stapled back on, and it just works again. We find out in Village why this is the case through a retcon, but I don't know if they had this planned all the way back when they were making the game. You're not really supposed to think about it. We then get the iconic dinner scene where the bakers, who consist of Jack, Marguerite, and Lucas, and this old woman, who totally isn't Evelyn, the bioweapon, rapidly aged, are eating what look to be bugs, guts, and God knows whatever else that is. After obviously refusing to eat whatever slop this is, the phone ringing saves us from whatever Jack is about to do to us for not eating our veggies. After getting free and avoiding Jack for another little while, we see a cop at the window. And seriously, this cop is the worst cop that I have ever seen. He straight up hints that Ethan might be involved in the missing people reports that have been going around, and doesn't even acknowledge Ethan's stapled hand and the blood that's likely all over him at this point. He begrudgingly gives Ethan a dinky little pocket knife, and we meet him in the garage, where he's promptly and brutally murdered by Jack, which leads to the first of several boss fights with him. Ethan eventually takes him down, but not before Jack shows off her gift, which means he can survive putting a gun in his mouth and pulling the trigger. You find out later that the bakers being infected with Evelyn's gift gives them regeneration powers, but it also makes them lose control of their minds and makes them extremely violent. So it's very clear Jack is the Mr. X equivalent and won't be taken down so easily. He's out of our hair for now though, and now we have to get out of the house. As you explore the house more, it really starts feeling more like Resident Evil. Weird shadow puzzles, doors that have to be opened via dog head pendants, evading the unkillable Jack, and disgusting mold monsters known as the Molded. It's all a great package. Once Ethan finally takes down Jack for good, well, kind of, after an awesome chainsaw duel where you get a chainsaw and he has a pair of crude chainsaw scissors.
That's not true.
Well, again, you don't take him down for good, but for a while. Now it's time to make your way to the boathouse to start creating a serum to get this mold out of Zoe and Mia. The boathouse is where you fight Marguerite and her bugs. This part is awful. I hate gigantic insects and just insects in general, so having to navigate this place while avoiding giant hornet things and smaller hornets while also keeping yourself hidden from Marguerite was tense as all get out. It is such a relief once you get the flamethrower and I can finally take out these nasty bugs and Marguerite herself. Brother, what is that? Ew!
Brother, what's that?
After taking out Marguerite, it's time to get the first part of the serum, the D-Series arm. I'll admit, this is probably the scariest part of the game. Seth, let's throw in a couple of YouTuber reactions to this part to get an idea of how scary it is.
Oh God. Oh God!
Hey.
Whoa!
Whoa! Oh no! Can I shoot one of her legs?
Bruh.
Would that be rude to shoot a little girl? Oh no!
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, f*** off! F*** off and f*** you.
It also scared me. There are definitely creepy parts all over this game, but this part is the one area that genuinely terrified me. Good stuff. Now it's time to go get the D-Series head, but we have to deal with a bunch of Lucas shenanigans to nab it. I do want to note here, the villains of this game all have very different and distinct sections, and none of them feel the same. You've got the Jack sections where you're navigating the Baker house with classic Resident Evil elements, then the Marguerite section with the bugs followed by the terrifying D-Series arm part, and then the Lucas section that's full of traps and explosives and party stuff. An interesting fact as well, Lucas is the only Baker that was given a way to keep his regeneration powers but isn't mind controlled by Evelyn. But he's a bit of a psychopath, so he doesn't even need to be infected to be super violent and unstable. By the way, this is the worst party I've ever been to. I was promised presents. Party pooper. Ethan finally gets the D-Series head and makes his way to where Mia and Zoe are currently being held, and Zoe gets to work making the serum that can finally cure herself and Mia from this awful mold. Unfortunately, before Ethan can cure Mia and Zoe, things are interrupted by Jack, who is turned into a giant blob of meat and eyeballs. Yep, there's that classic Resident Evil monster that we've all come to know and love. Turns out the only way Ethan can stop Jack here is to inject him with one of the 2 vials of serum, and that leads to the player making a choice. Do you save your long-lost wife and get her home safe after all of this is over, or do you inject Zoe, thinking you can find help and save Mia later? Most players obviously chose Mia, since that's the choice the game nudges you towards, but choosing Zoe actually leads you to getting a bad ending of sorts, which isn't even canon since Mia is in Village. Saving Mia leads to the canon ending. Ethan and Mia come across a wrecked ship, and their raft is capsized from giant tendrils of mold. Ethan is taken away by the mold, so you have to play as Mia for a bit. A nice change of pace, at first. This boat section is one of the lower points of the game. I don't care for it all that much. After exploring the ship, Evelyn starts stalking you and forces you to watch a tape, which reveals what Mia had been doing while she was on her babysitting job. She turns out to be an agent of the Connections, a criminal organization that is responsible for Evelyn from a bioweapon research project. Mia was aboard the ship while they were transporting Evelyn, and due to Evelyn being Evelyn, the ship crashes and somehow washes up near the Baker estate, and Jack ends up getting infected when he stumbles across the wrecked boat, which in turn gets the rest of his family infected. I think it's a great twist. The whole reason Ethan even got into this mess was because Mia was helping a criminal organization with dangerous bioweapons, and that ended up getting an innocent family infected, which in turn causes the whole nightmare you see in this game. It kind of makes you regret curing her earlier because she's part of the reason all of this happened in the first place. What doesn't really make sense is why Mia, even after Ethan arrives at the Baker estate, doesn't tell Ethan the truth even though it doesn't matter now. I know it's for game purposes, but it's kind of wonky writing. We'll get to that later though. Regardless, we still have to finish off this nightmare and get out of here. Mia finds Ethan, who is trapped in a cocoon of mold. We then get a pretty emotional scene of Ethan with Jack and Zoe in the mold hive mind. I think that's what it's called anyway. Jack tells Ethan he isn't a killer. None of his family members are. Well, except Lucas. He's got those school shooter vibes. I don't know about him. Jack tells Ethan about Evelyn and how once she takes control of you, there's no fighting back. He pleads for Ethan to free his family and end the torment they've been enduring. It's super emotional because it shows how innocent these people are and how they came into contact with something they have no understanding of by no fault of their own. It's sad, especially since you've been forced to fight Jack multiple times and straight up kill his wife. Thanks to Mia being involved in bioweapon shenanigans, she tore an entire family apart. If I were Ethan, I'd reconsider this marriage. I don't care how hot she is. Evelyn once again takes control of Mia and we have to leave her, and you really question what the point was of curing her earlier. Evelyn can just take control again anyway, so
all that work and what did it get me?
Ethan ventures into the salt mine, still in pursuit of Lucas, and finds the necrotoxin that can finally put a stop to Evelyn. He's able to make his way back to the guest house out of the mine, and after injecting Evelyn with the toxin, it turns out she was the old lady you see all over the house the whole time. A plot twist I'm sure everyone saw coming, mostly because the game didn't allow you to shoot her. It was obvious there was something to her. After being injected, Evelyn turns into a giant blob of mold and meat and God knows what else, very reminiscent of William Birkin's final form in Resident Evil 2. Turns out shooting Evelyn is just making the problem worse, and right as it seems like all hope is about to be lost, the BSAA shows up and tosses Ethan the Albert 01, an anti-bioweapon handgun. After a few shots from this thing, Evelyn is finally down. For good. And then we get rescued by...
I'm Redfield.
Chris! See, I like that. Like I said earlier in the review, this game is very much pretty disconnected from the rest of the Resident Evil games, but right at the end, you have that connection. Chris Redfield and the BSAA are here. And Ethan asks what all of us are also wondering.
The took you guys so long?
And happy ending! Ethan is saved along with Mia, who is still alive somehow, and that marriage certainly isn't going to survive long. I don't know how Ethan's going to trust her after this. Remember, she caused all of this. She was working with the Connections and didn't properly prepare for Evelyn to get loose. Yeah, she didn't know that was going to happen, but she's still responsible. No excuses. Don't mess around with bioweapons. Lots of people are going to die. I know she's hot, I get it, but come on Ethan, don't be a simp. And in typical Resident Evil fashion, everyone flies off into the sunset. Seriously, that happens at the end of every single Resident Evil game. It will feel wrong and weird if Requiem doesn't end that way too. And that's the end of the game. There's also several DLC packs, including the Not a Hero DLC, where you play as Chris after he traverses the salt mine to finally finish off Lucas for good, and the End of Zoe DLC, where you play as Jack's brother, Joe, where you see what happens to Zoe after you cure Mia. Both of these DLC campaigns are a lot of fun, but I won't delve into these much since I've been talking a lot already, and I'm mainly trying to focus on the base game. There's also the banned footage DLCs and the Ethan Must Die mode. I've tried this a couple of times. I do not recommend.
Hell no.
Wow. After coming back to this game, I love it even more than I already did. While being a fantastic Resident Evil game, especially after the chaos that was Resi 6, it's also a great standalone horror experience. It welcomes new players and old, and it made me want to go check out the other Resident Evil games afterwards. You could tell so much love and care went into making this a perfect blend of classic Resident Evil and modern horror, while taking tons of inspirations from other horror movies and games, like the Blair Witch Project, Evil Dead, Silent Hill, and more. I really like the villains in this game. Well, most of them. I can take or leave Lucas, especially since you don't even fight him in the main game, you actually take him down in the Not a Hero DLC. And Evelyn is Evelyn, and Marguerite is fine. Jack, however, is a whole different beast. The idea as a whole is great, and it's refreshing for Resident Evil. An innocent rural family being turned into violent, murderous psychopaths through a mind-controlling mold fungus infection, which makes them the main bosses of this game, and by extension in the DLC expansions, is a brilliant and creative concept. The scariest by far is Jack. He's intimidating, unhinged, and unstoppable. No matter how many shots he takes to the cranium, he will get back up and keep coming after you. Rough rural men are always on the tough and scary side, but when that's amplified by a mind-controlling fungus, the horror factor is upped by a whole lot. He does have a lot of screen time, and he chases you a lot throughout the first half of the game, but I still wish we could have seen more of him. Fantastic main antagonist. He is up there with other unstoppable monsters like Mr. X and Nemesis. As I said earlier in the review, the setting for this game is fantastic. The rundown Baker estate feels so Resident Evil, and the creepy, nasty, swampy forest surrounding the property makes for an excellent atmosphere. On top of the scary Baker family, you never know what's lurking in that swamp. With all that being said, let's go into some things that I did not like about this game that keep it from being a 10 out of 10. First, Ethan's blandness. It's one thing to make this character a blank slate to fit with the player not knowing what in the world is going on in this game, but that doesn't mean make the man completely devoid of personality altogether. His nonchalantness and lack of reaction to big things happening, including major injuries, death, Mia being captured again and again, and just everything in general, is very distracting. I mean, when he first finds her in the basement of the guest house, he doesn't shout in joy and run up to her. All he says is, "Mia?" It's the same energy as Henry when he finds Boris at the end of Bendy and the Ink Machine Chapter 2.
Boris?
Seriously, same energy. Capcom went out of their way to give him more of a personality in Village, but they tried a little too hard and it ended up being cheesy and cringe-inducing most of the time. Here, it's very baffling in certain instances where something absolutely terrifying is happening, and instead of screaming for his life or making any kind of comment about his current situation in general, Ethan is just like,
Oh no. Anyway.
Along with that, there are some pretty wonky writing choices, particularly with Mia. She has no reason to keep everything from Ethan after he arrives. She makes such a big point of recording messages for him, telling him to stay away and to forget he ever knew her. It makes sense because she's working as an agent for a criminal organization involved with dangerous bioweapons. Her keeping silent about that makes sense. It's got to the point where Ethan thought she was dead. But after he arrives to the Baker estate, she still stays vague and doesn't tell him the truth. Again, it's for game purposes, I know, but it still doesn't make sense from a story perspective. Ethan is clearly exposed to this stuff and he deserves to know what's going on, but Mia keeps him in the dark for reasons. And on top of everything, she's not happy to see Ethan, and her personality isn't all that extravagant either when she's not being controlled by Evelyn. It's just, well, I don't know what happened. Wifey of the year, ladies and gentlemen. There's also a noticeable lack of enemy variety. The boss fights are awesome and stick out in a good way, but the only enemies are like 2 or 3 variations of the molded. There's not much else. I know Resident Evil isn't known for having like dozens of enemy types, but it does get a little repetitive after a while, fighting the same 2 monsters again and again. There's a big reason why I like the boathouse section with the giant bugs. It's different. Not that the other sections are bad, but this part sticks out due to the tense stealth aspect and having to avoid all the bugs and find your way around them. Village does improve on the enemy variety, but I just wish we had a couple more variants of enemies to fight. In terms of the gameplay itself, I don't particularly care for the boat section, as I mentioned earlier. It's pretty slow, especially with the VHS part of it, and I find myself just wanting the game to get on with it. There are great parts of it, but it overall slows the pacing down, and I wish it was a little more fast-paced. With all that being said, I'm giving Resident Evil 7 Biohazard a solid 8 out of 10. It's a great game with a few issues that bring it down a little bit. Those issues don't ruin the entire game, however. It's still a very fun experience, and it's up there with some of the best Resident Evil games, only topped maybe by Resident Evil 4 and the Resi 4 remake. This is one of those instances where I had to think for a while about most of the issues I have with it. It's a solid game and it has some great replay value. Except on Madhouse. I don't recommend Madhouse mode, unless you're a masochist and enjoy pain and suffering. If so, play this mode to your heart's content. Don't say I didn't warn you though. And that'll do it for this review of Resident Evil 7. What do you guys think of the game? Did you enjoy it as much as I did, and do you agree with my critiques? What were your favorite parts of the game, and least favorites? I'd love to know your thoughts, and let me know what your favorite Resident Evil game is in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback. Once again, I want to let everyone know that memberships are active on the channel, so if you want special perks like early access to videos, special badges, and access to unique features on that channel and in my Discord server, click the join button on my channel. And yeah, I have a Discord server, link in the description. Next up on the review agenda is a video on Dice Dreams. Those of you who enjoy my Monopoly Go videos will like this one, I'm sure. Stay tuned. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. Peace! I love you all! And these settings are perfect for horror. That's a reason why the Blair Witch Project. Yes, I put that at the end of the video, along with any other